Okay, about a week ago, this happened. Spinning sounds, but the gearbox wasn't actually cycling. In the process of troubleshooting, one of the things I tested was taking the mainspring out and pulling the trigger, and it actually slung the piston back with significant force. So that leads me to believe, after some load threshold, the motor as a whole unit isn't capable of driving the gearbox. Took the motor out, plugged it into my harness here, hooked up a battery, and tested it. My first suspicion was that the pinion wasn't fixed to the axle hard enough, so when the motor spun, the axle would spin around underneath the pinion while it was stuck against the gear. Turns out that is not the case. After a little bit more troubleshooting, talking to a few people, we've come to assume that the armature itself and the axle assembly is not press fit together tight enough. So the axle, after a certain load threshold, will just sit there while the armature spins around it. Today, we're going to figure that out. So let's take this apart. Here's the motor in question. I gotta take her apart, desolder the ESC, and then see if I can do anything about the axle. I am probably going to use something like this. Okay, desoldered the ESC again. Let's see if we can get this armature out. Yeah, there's no way I'm getting the armature out with the pinion in it. Fuck. I'm gonna give it a light tap on this side, and if the pinion and axle come out a little bit, then my guess is right, and we'll have to remove the pinion, retaining compound the axle into the armature, and do it all over again. Okay. That felt like it moved. Yep, that moved. Okay, there's the answer. Gotta remove the pinion and retaining compound the axle in place. Need a little bit more torque. There we go. And the motor has been freed from the pinion. And out comes the armature. There you have it. A brushless motor's armature, where the magnets are on the armature and the coils are on the housing. This way you can fit more copper and get way more torque out of it while reducing friction, because there's literally nothing physically touching each other now. Okay. Let's see if we can't bump that axle out. I don't want to damage it by crushing it, so I'm just going to have it sit on top here. Now I'm pretty sure when I hit this, it's going to peen the top a little bit, so I'll have to file that down before putting the pinion back on. Wow. That is... How does that just happen? Hold on, let me just write this down before I forget. This way is front of can. Suspected of causing cancer. Huh. Let's not get any of that on my hands, shall we? Well, that is viscous. Let's get a little bit more coverage. Most of it's going to get scraped off, because the clearance between these two circles is probably really tight. Obviously not tight enough to keep the axle from spinning, but tight enough to knock a lot of this retaining compound off. Okay, now I hope that's enough. No, I wiped a lot off. Let's put more back on. Okay, now I put him back in upside down. Hammer him back the other way until the blue line I marked earlier hits just above that neck. Oh yeah, a lot of that is coming off. Well, I just wiped off my blue Sharpie line. It's okay. I have a rough idea. Actually, I can see a bit of wear marks on there from the bearing. Let me use that. Can I just hammer it in my hand? I can't just hammer it in my hand. That's how little grip this press fit has on the axle. Oh my gosh. That should be just about right. There's wear marks here too. Well, it's not wear marks, it's grease, dirt marks, debris. Okay, that's pretty much on. And I think the instructions are to just let it sit for a while. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait for that to cure. I'll give it like 2 hours, 2-3 hours, then come back to it. See you then. All back together and pinion JB welded on. Next I gotta check motor height, see if the pinion is properly engaged with the bevel there. Let's go do that real quick. It's alright. Actually, no. Yep, I'm in the right spot. Now let's stabilize this motor in here. I should have done this first, stabilize the motor inside the grip, but better late than never. Much better. Let's go with that and put it all back together. Okay, let's see if any of that Loctite fixed anything. Not bad. Well, I guess my work here is done. EMG, huh? Plus J. So I've actually reassembled everything as I got it, and I'm gonna do one more sound test over my bed, because that's how I see my channel's image. A bunch of janky airsoft tech stuff in my room, over my bed, and maybe my workbench. Semi? I noticed there's no ball detent, but it's really grippy. I wonder if you have an O-ring under there. Could be better, to be honest. My guess is that the motor height isn't perfect anymore. When I checked the bevel pinion engagement earlier, it was all right. The pinion's actually a little deep, maybe about a 1.5 millimeters. I would normally adjust it back since I already know the bevel height's good, but I actually don't have the ability to do so. This set screw has been like JB welded or something, epoxied in place. I cannot move it. It's really unfortunate because the first time I set the motor height, it was perfect. I hadn't planned for it, and honestly, it sounded amazing. But since I had to knock the axle out, put Loctite on and axle back in, pinion back on, it's not exactly the same height anymore. It's definitely still usable. And we can actually mask it if we put a little precocking on. That was 0% earlier. Pretty good. Decock. Perfect. Good to go. Peace.